So we just have a real diversity of clients that we work with, and each of their stories are unique. Each of their perspectives are unique. But if we pull them all together in a room, there'd be a thread that you see amongst all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, we call it, this is the first time that it's happening. So Carmen, you are getting the exclusive. We've never said this publicly. But I'm going to say it because I want it to be cemented because it really is a thing. It's the vibe of Visionaries and the energy of excellence. Like it is when you think and you see all of the people that we work with, they have that thing. And so I can't wait for the day when we get them all in a room. But,
Yeah.
that's our filter, that's our lens. And, we just see greatness in the people that we work with and are really honored and humbled to help usher them through this journey.
We get to help her extend her legacy in that way by not only just that she's doing all this great work in, research and trials, but then caring about communities that they don't get left behind. And so we get to help build those bridges and create all those relationships. And we get to just be part of some remarkable things that we wouldn't normally get to do. So this is like a blessing for us as well to be in these rooms. And so I would say she's one of our all of our favorites. So
absolutely. Yeah. And I'll add to that, like she had the vision for the foundation. She's like, in full transparency, I'm a white woman in Dallas trying to serve communities that don't look like me. I don't want to come in and be a savior. I want to be authentically present in those communities and serve from an authentic place.
Welcome back to the podcast, and I'm super excited to bring you another interview around this idea of what are we doing differently this year. And I have two special guests with us today, Tamika and Janaya from O.G. LLC. And don't worry, they'll share with you what O.G. really means and all the ins and outs of it. And so as we dive into what they're doing differently this year and who they are and how they show up and how they serve the world, we'll get into all of that, but let's just start with some rapid fire questions just to get to know like the human side of you, just to get to know each of you. So Janaya, why don't I start with you? And why don't you share with us what you had for breakfast this morning?
That would probably be the shortest answer of nothing. Not yet. I know. Go into it. I know, Carmen, my speech will kick in, but nothing yet.
That's okay. That's okay. Maybe you're just doing a little intermittent fasting for the day, right?
Yeah.
To get that cell turnover, that autophagy going, to feel a little bit better. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Right on it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Tell us, where did you grow up and then where do you live now?
I've had a variety of grow up places. So I would say Bolivar, Tennessee, Flint, Michigan, and Oregon, a variety of different places in Oregon. So I have a good spread there of where I grew up. And
what took you to? Oh, what took you to all those places?
Family. So growing up, right, you just trail along whatever is going on with what everybody's doing. So my family's originally from the South. So that's Tennessee. They migrated north. And so then that's how we ended up in Flint, Detroit. And they worked in the factories, the car industry. And then my mother's family is actually from Michigan and migrated out to Oregon and got into the logging industry. So my grandfather started a logging company out in Oregon. And so all of those places I've had variety experience, variety of, I guess, different cultures, different opportunities. And so I feel like there's not very many places that I could be that either I don't have a cousin or that I just haven't had that experience just being in all these different places.
I love that. I think that's so wonderful growing up. Oftentimes we think like with our kids, we want to give them better than we had. And we think that means like staying in one place, but that limits us often. Like it doesn't expand our mind to what's possible. And you being able to go all of these places really offered opportunity to be like, hey, look what's possible over here. Look what's possible over here, instead of just like one way to do things, which is really cool. And it goes into your experience in your company right now as well. Now, where do you live now?
Oh, and I live in Dallas now. I guess I left out where I currently am. But yeah, Dallas, Texas, mid of the country, but a great place to travel all around from. But yeah, I've been here about 10 years. So now I get a little Texas experience in that whole mix up.
I love how you said Texas. My son lives in Texas. We talked about that before in Dallas too. So if you had to pick one book to be in every library, what book would you recommend?
Carmen,
I
as you
know.
can see.
Okay,
How do
so how about a great read over the last year? Or you could pick two if there's really like a couple that are on your mind.
Okay, so I read usually 3 books at a time. Usually
Mm.
I have a novel. Usually I have some kind of either business growth, some type of book like that. And then sometimes I have like a nerd book about something that I'm just interested in, or somebody's biography, or something, something kind of, I guess
Mhm.
all of them could be nerd books, but I would say two of my favorites right now. I'm reading Atomic Habits,
Mhm.
uh, going through that, which is a little bit of an exercise, but I've been on this like trying to build different habits, working on different habits, and even shaking some like bad habits that creep up on you. And so that's kind of my work right now. I love Rocket Fuel too. It goes a lot to what we do with our work around visionaries and integrators. And so Rocket Fuel is my favorite. And then or not favorite, but current favorite. And then I would say I reread Alice Walker In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, and it's just been a favorite book of mine since I was about 17. I think I discovered it. And it is a book of short stories that she wrote. It's really in the 60s and 70s, from a woman's and a womanist feminist perspective, around all the different things, her marriage, the state of kind of race relations at the time. And it's so interesting that it every time I read it, something different comes up for me. And I'm like, I don't even remember this part last time. I don't remember, but it all the different experience, right? Raising kids, being married and relationships, all that. So every time something's different. So I just reread that again, and super Shira empowered all over again. So
I love that. I'll have to get that added to my Amazon cart and order that. And about rereading, though, like what you said, you might have read it 10 years ago, but you're in a different place right now. It's like any book, even like the Bible or whatever, any book that you read, you're in a different place. You can take something from it again if you have that mindset, if you have that growth mindset, if you have the closed off mindset of, oh, I've already read this and you just skim read it, then you're not going to get anything from it. But there's always something available. I love that you shared that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Tamika, you're up. What did you have for breakfast today?
All right, so I'm probably a step ahead of Janaya. I've had a banana and coffee and water. I've had 3 things for breakfast at this point.
I like it. I
Not full
like
nourishment, but a little bit of variety there. A little bit of
it.
variety.
So, how do you like your coffee? Is there a certain way?
Um, my sister says I drink muddy water, so it's coffee with a little bit of either oat milk or almond milk. That's about it. No sugar,
Mm,
no sweetener, no flavor. Just give me the beans and
mm.
a little bit of cream.
Okay, so any certain type of coffee, like your dark roast or medium,
I'm
light?
a medium roast girl, but what I'm living on right now is this Jamaican me crazy type flavoring. So it has a little bit of vanilla in it, some nutmeg. It's like an islandy blend, so it's good for the summer. So that's where I'm at right now.
Mm. That sounds good. I love some coffee. I realized a few months ago that I was drinking too much coffee, so I switched to like having decaf in the afternoon. So I was like, now I can have coffee. When I was in Tulum last year working on my book, I would go and get a decaf espresso shot and then have it over ice with almond milk, like at the end of the night as I was
It's a
writing,
nice,
like
yeah.
after dinner and stuff. And it was so nice. So I'm out of decaf here at home, so I'll have to get some decaf.
Yeah.
So tell us, and yes, kudos, you got the banana in, right?
I did.
Um, tell us where you grew up and then where you live now.
So I grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey. It's in this mysterious central Jersey aspect. I guess if you looked on the map where New Jersey kind of curves in, central New Jersey, if you will. Um, Lived there for most of my life. I went to college in Atlanta, so I was there for about 4 years and moved back to New Jersey. And now I'm in Philadelphia and I'm coming up on my 10th year here in Philadelphia.
I love it. I've never been to Philadelphia, so
It's
that's
a
that's on the
historic city.
list for sure.
It's a cute little place. It has a lot to offer. A lot
Yeah.
to offer.
What about you? What is a book or a few books that you could recommend to us today?
One of my favorite books, and I've probably read it about 6 or 7 times since I discovered it, is The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. It's a super old book. I wish I had it because it's like dog-eared and all tore up. But she was actually a woman born in Philadelphia, strangely enough, on my birthday. And I don't know how I discovered the book or how I discovered her, but it just talks about the way you navigate your life. And it's almost along the lines of like Paulo Coelho, those kind of books, and just about manifestation, about what you pay attention to, the power of your words, the power of intention. And she talks about the square of life being, health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And so I think, if you think about the corners of your life, if you can function well in all of those spaces, you have a pretty decent, chance at loving this time that you have here. And so it's it's a short read, an easy read, but it's one of my favorite books, and I probably read it every other year, if not more.
Wow, I've never heard of that book. So I'm definitely gonna check that one out too. I am just like Janaya, I read multiple books at a time, but for
Mhm.
multiple reasons, right? One where I just want to totally detach, so psychological detachment from any work or doing anything. That's usually like a beach read. And then another one is like something that I'm studying right now. So I love how you put it like a nerd book, right? Like nothing, no one else wants to know about the high performance habits of top people who execute and all these things. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I really getting into like the science and the nitty gritty, because that's something that we do at our company is we take like that stuff that seems complicated and we make it simple and give people formulas and methods to be able to use it. And then I do read usually a personal development book too. So both of those ones that you suggested, I'm definitely going to check them out, ladies. So thank you. And thank you for sharing a little bit of just your human side and getting to know you a little bit more. But let's dive in a little bit more. So I told the listeners that you would share with us, and who wants to share with us what does OG mean for your company, and who is it that you're serving, and why is it a little bit different than any other, like let's say, consulting company that's out there?
So where do we start? So I'll say we say that OG LLC really stands for We Operationalize Genius. It's a thing that we kind of came up with when we thought about all of the experiences that we've had, the skills that we offer, and the magic that we create together. We didn't know each other before starting a business. We met through work in our previous life. We ran a nonprofit together. I had started with the organization probably around 2014. Janaya came along in 2017. And we literally scoured the country and then virtually the globe, helping to grow and scale this organization, and realize that we kind of made magic together. We go from big picture all the way down to landing the plane and getting things done and measuring the impact on the back end. And there became a formula. We started getting tapped to do all these different projects. And it was, how do you take this big idea and make it land and make it solid and make it sustainable and make it grow? And we've done it multiple times. We're like, at first, we're like, is this a fluke? And then we did it again. And we're like, no, this is something. And then we did it again. And then we did it for 40 organizations at one time. And it was like, no, this is something. And so we have taken that OG formula and kind of put it into our consulting firm. And so it's been really, really exciting to do this work and serve professionals that are on the brink of either on the brink or already doing big things in their professional career, but wanting to translate that into more longstanding, passionate work or something that they're really, really interested in. And we help them take that same professional gumption that they have, but translate it into more passion-filled work.
I love that so much. And for those of you that don't know or haven't seen, Tamika and Janaya will be speaking at the Amplify Your Life World Conference in September in Bend. And they're going to be sharing with us about legacy and building legacy. So not just showing up and serving or operating a business, but how do we build legacy and what does that look like? But something that you shared, I think, is a really key there. Oftentimes we get to this point in our lives where like we've reached a level of success, and these are the people that are going to be at the conference, and it sounds like the exact people that you work with too is a successful individual, but then nothing's really wrong, but it kind of feels like everything's wrong. Like there isn't, we're kind of getting pulled on all different ways. And that thing that that lit us up so much previously, maybe it's like dimming us a little bit. And you said that you come in and operationalize genius, which I love that. And you help people take what they existing have, that they're successful, and then move it into more of purpose and passion and service and legacy. And I want people to hear that, because you know what people do often is they just like, I'm just going to give this up. I'm going to burn it all down. I'm going to start something new. I'm going to get a new career. I'm going to start a new business. And it's like, you're telling me that we don't necessarily have to do that in order to fulfill a purpose in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Jay, you want to
Yeah.
talk about it? Janiyah is like the queen of building the pathway for it.
Oh, I love that.
Hey, there's also too, sometimes it's difficult to like make space for these that feel like dreams, right? So we're doing the things, we're successful. You feel a little bit off if you're like, what, there should be more, or I want to do more with what I'm doing. And so sometimes it's just that space. And this is where like operationalized genius comes into, where we get to download from people what that dream is. Like some of our first questions are like, tell us your biggest dream with this. Like, tell us, if there was no obstacle, if there was nothing, what's the biggest dream? Envision that. And then I think we hold this space too. So they're running and gunning, they're successful in their world. Sometimes it's just these little small tweaks and pivots that helps them then realize how to expand into that passion space or into that purpose space. You don't have to blow everything up, where it's not like something's necessarily wrong, but it is space to dream. And then we help operationalize, the genius within the dream, because there's always genius within the dream.
I love that so much. That's something that we often talk about on the podcast and in the work that we do. Is the first step is, in our method, is the same thing: creating white space. Creating the space to dream, to think, to plan, to vision, to feel, sometimes even to reflect.
Right.
Because just like both of you shared, you have so much experience in the past, but how often do we forget that expertise that we have? Instead of allowing it to like build on each other, the experience that we have, we start thinking we need to learn something new or become an expert in something new. It's like, how can we take everything that we've experienced and then put it forward towards this passion that we have? And creating the space to be able to dream, vision, reflect, think, all of that is so important. Right now is the midpoint of the year, and how many people are actually taking the time to create the space to reflect? Is that something that you do with your clients? I know we have a podcast coming out soon that's just talking about our mid-year review.
Yeah, I think it's the space to reflect, but also to bring it all forward and kind of see the connections and the synapses between the transitions or between the growth moments that you can remember. Like when you reflect back, you have like, I think everybody has like these moments where it's like, oh, this happened and then this, and this happened and this. And when you look at it in hindsight, it either all starts to make sense or it doesn't make sense at all. And so at that point, you have to look for what are some of the common themes? What are how did I show up either similarly, or what things did I activate in those spaces? And so in that reflection, that's what we're listening for. We just let people talk and ask them the hard question and let them become almost childlike and really returning back to the things that they really care about. And then also seeing their excellence in the spaces that they're in. And so we get a lot of feedback that, oh my God, I've never seen myself that way. Or, oh my God, I didn't believe that this was even possible. But these are people that are working at the optimal levels in their careers, and you're not seeing yourself in the space or seeing yourself the way others see you. And so by highlighting that, it really helps people to see, yes, there is space, or there is an opportunity for me to reach back to that dream and kind of reconnect it without throwing everything away. Like I can bring that forward because the stuff is already in you. Like you wouldn't be in this space if that dream wasn't driving you or if that interest wasn't there.
Wow. I hope everybody rewinds the podcast now and listens to those last few minutes, because that was important. What I heard you say was, hey, even the most successful people still have doubt and still don't see their greatness often. And being able to connect with someone like both of you to be able to pull that out. And it's like this renewed sense of like hope and energy and passion. And then like, where can we take it from there?
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Do you have a a client that you could share with us, like what you've done with them, how you've worked with them to really operationalize genius in their business or their venture and pull out a passion and start building a legacy, like something that stands out that you could share with us? I'm not sure who wants to take that one.
You pick, because there's a few.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I want to
Janiyah, you want to share a favorite? And then maybe Tamika, you could share a favorite.
I'll say that every single one of our clients are our favorites.
Yes,
because we get to stand in this space with them, it is really a connector in different ways, right? So it's not a 1, 2, 3, here's what you do. 1, 2, 3, here's your checklist. 1, 2, 3, because we get to connect and help them expand themselves in this way around a passion. There's a different connectivity. So every single person, I would say, is our favorite in so many different ways. But if I would say an example is we have a doctor client who is she's a leading clinical research and clinical trial doctor in dementia and Alzheimer's. And so for me, it's a very personal relationship when we first met them. And we were connected. It was like, one of those kind of divine connections. Like I was in Florida, met somebody who I didn't know who was, oh, you're in Dallas. And so it was one of those connections. But dementia and Alzheimer's, my grandmother had Alzheimer's. I'm a caretaker for my aunt now who has dementia. And so very personal situation. But she's a leading clinical doctor, trials, research. And when she came to us, she said, there's so many breakthroughs happening in dementia and Alzheimer's, treatment, prevention, slowing down, that leading towards a cure, of course. And there's disparity for communities, Black community, Hispanic community. And if the disparities are there now, they're going to get left behind. And so I'm very passionate about starting a foundation that stands in that gap. And so how do we bring the communities along so that they have access to not only the treatments, the things that are coming out, or participating in trials so that they can be seen, heard, represented. So very passion-filled work, very close to me personally. So I get to learn a lot. I get to bring my family members along with me. And we attend events and we get to learn so much, not only being caretakers, but this is like that passion coming to life. And so we get to help her extend her legacy in that way by not only just that she's doing all this great work in, research and trials, but then caring about communities that they don't get left behind. And so we get to help build those bridges and create all those relationships. And we get to just be part of some remarkable things that we wouldn't normally get to do. So this is like a blessing for us as well to be in these rooms. And so I would say she's one of all of our favorites. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll add to that, like she had the vision for the foundation and she's like, I just don't know. She's like, I see the end goal. I see us showing up in these communities. I see us helping people to be a part of it. I can't quite connect the dots. She's like, in full transparency, I'm a white woman in Dallas trying to serve communities that don't look like me. I don't want to come in and be a savior. I want to be authentically present in those communities and serve from an authentic place. And she's like, I just want guidance in a way to do this the right way, both operationally and intentionally from a cultural perspective. And we've been able to bridge that gap for her and queue up relationships, queue up partnerships. And she's right there with us. And it's a really beautiful thing to see, like when we're all in a room and you start to see the connection between communities and she's seeing things the way she saw it in her mind, but just wasn't able to put those two together as a practicing clinician every single day. And so it's amazing to watch her show up in the community and for her to be received well and for the work to be translating and growing. And she's only a year in. So she's like actively showing up in the space in that capacity less than a year. So it's been really, really
Wow. Cool. Wow. That's so incredible because the diversity that you shared, or I could relate to wanting to show up in different communities and as a white woman, and how can I be received well, knowing that it's from my heart space, that I want to help and serve. And so that right there could hold people back. not knowing how to do that, or even having a fear or something around that maybe they're going to say or do the wrong thing. Sometimes that comes up. And so having both of you to come alongside to help her really with this vision is just so beautiful. Wow. Oh, that just fills my heart so much. I hope everybody can just, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're just listening to it on the podcast, just seeing them both light up when they're talking about this experience and this client that they're working with just goes to show like they're living what their work that they're doing. And I love what you said, Tamika, about that book, the topic of the book that you suggested, The Game of Life and how to play it. It was about health, wealth, love, and self-expression.
Yep.
And I feel like that's so fitting for your company and what you do. You help people with that, being able to not only build the wealth, but share love and share self-expression through their passion projects. Was there another example that came to mind, Tamika, that you'd want to share?
So I'm going to share the flip side of this. So we have a doctor, but then we also have one of our most amazing clients. He's actually one of our very first clients. He probably is the first client. When we were ideating our business, he's based in Atlanta. He is the original OG. So we're OGs, and we'll talk about that personally maybe by the time we get to the end of it, outside of operationalizing genius. But he is a former, from the streets, former rapper, entertainer, grew up rough childhood, all those things in Atlanta, but started a nonprofit because he wanted to help keep kids off the street during the summer. And so he created an organization that provides programming year round for kids that do just that, summer safe, like keep them off the streets in the summer so that we're preventing violence, giving them alternatives to consider. If I'm telling you, don't be violent, don't pick up a gun, what are you going to pick up instead? Is it a basketball? Is it a skateboard? Is it gardening? Is it STEM and computers and academics? And like watching him, again, be his authentic self. He has gold teeth. He has a super, Southern accent. Like he is an amazing, amazing, amazing individual. But watching him go from creating this grassroots organization to walking into funding rooms where there are millions, if not billions of dollars worth of potential funding in a room, and watch him show up and step up to the plate and tell his story and share the vision and mission of his work and actually get funded for it repeatedly, has been a beautiful thing. He is not a public speaker by any, like when we first met him, he's like, I don't speak in public. And our first conversation, he cried telling me his story. And at that point, he was like, well, now we're bonded because you know all my business and I've cried in front of you as a grown man. I can't be this, this soft guy. But just watching him grow over the last few years and really step into the fullness of really being a leader and seeing himself as not just this guy from the hood helping kids, but as a true community leader and change agent and representative for the community that he came from, has been just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. And so now he sees it as not just him doing good and scrounging up resources to help kids, but, oh, I can actively fundraise for this. I can actively share my story and really make a change, not just in my community, but in communities that look like mine all around the country. And again, it's just helping him to see himself, kind of calling him up a level and say, you know what, you are a leader. You are a change agent. You're not just what you've experienced. And so that's like the flip side of it. So we go from the hood to the hills. That's one of our other clients says that all the time. So we just have a real diversity of clients that we work with, and each of their stories are unique. Each of their perspectives are unique. But if we pull them all together in a room, there'd be a thread that you see amongst all of them. And, we call it, this is the first time that it's happening. So Carmen, you are getting the exclusive. We've never said this publicly. But I'm going to say it because I want it to be cemented because it really is a thing. It's the vibe of Visionaries and the energy of excellence. Like it is, when you think and you see all of the people that we work with, they have that thing. And so I can't wait for the day when we get them all in a room. But, that's our filter, that's our lens. And, we just see greatness in the people that we work with and are really honored and humbled to help usher them through this journey.
Okay, say it one more time. Vibe of Visionaries.
Energy
Tell
of
us again.
Vibe of Visionaries, energy of excellence. Like
I got full body chills when you said that, and I could just see both of you like really, really lighting up. This is amazing. And so what you just shared, and I want to make sure people are taking this away, is having purpose and building legacy and doing something that's on your heart isn't just for a doctor or someone that has, amassed a large amount of money. It could be for anyone. And how you partner with them and what you can guide them through, getting them into the right rooms, getting them with you, with the right coaches and mentors is sort of as I see you with this gentleman here. Anything is really possible if you have the right vision and the right energy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And the work that you do, I mean, we could just talk about it for days and days and days. It's way more than operations, right? I hope people are hearing that. Yeah. It's what's underneath. It is the driver, it is the vision, it is the passion, it's the energy, and then it's the action to get there. Yep. Because so many people have something on their heart, but they're not taking action. And I love that you're activating them, you're amplifying them, you're expanding them. Even though it's already within them, we cover it up. It's like we all want to be seen, but we're all out here hiding in plain sight. And I love what you said. One of my mentors said this when I said before, I said, I'm feeling called out. And she said, oh no, I'm not calling you out. I'm just calling you up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You are. That's what you're doing. And I love that. So let's shift a little bit here. Now that we have a really amazing understanding of the brilliant, beautiful work that you do in the world, what are you doing differently this year in your business? Now that you have had all these clients under your belt and you've been working in a partnership, which working in this type of partnership can also be challenging on its own. Janiyah, what are you guys doing a little bit differently this year in your business?
I would say there is a couple things. Like we've had a real exercise of faith and it being confirmed for us. And so, when this happened and we decided so I'm a former banker, she's a former lawyer. So two things will happen. You're going to get a step-by-step, a graph, a chart. We see things differently and can compile it in a brief. And so that's just the two of us. That's the operationalized. That's where that comes to life. But we're both very organized, structured, how we would have done things, and so when we stepped out on this business, it was really a faith step at that moment. It was a timing situation that we would have done differently had, we not had like a little gentle nudge pushing us in a direction. And so the first year we, thank goodness we had each other because we, are so calculated and so would have done things our way. The first one was, it's not really your way right now, but you're going to do it this way. And so this second year, we've really, I think, stepped into the belief of that. And so bringing that along with us as we build this company, as we consider building our team, as we consider even the types of projects that we take on, because we've frankly been in our first and second year of business and decided projects weren't aligned with us, or we weren't aligned with that particular project. And so, which is a really scary thing to do in your first 2 years of business. Like, who turns down business, when you're building business? And so that being such a part of us being CEOs and co-founders, and who puts faith on your, faith and belief in these kind of things on your list as when you're building out KPIs and when you're building out metrics and when you're building out programs, And so I would say that's one thing that are not resisting in this second year. Again, and really accepting that that's part of the work as us as leaders and founders and building out what we believe is this serving great people and operationalizing genius and making this impact, aligning with people that are doing the same kind of passion-filled work. So that's what I would say is kind of the big do different. We've accepted it.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's something that I'm very faithful as well. And I know in the past when starting our company, I said yes when I should have. Now looking back in hindsight, I should have said no. It wasn't fully aligned. And those were the most difficult clients, the most difficult projects, the ones where I left feeling slightly discouraged, primarily because the outcomes that we had set weren't met. And some of the reasons for that is that upper leadership wasn't engaged. And so I'm trying to engage others, and then upper leadership's not engaged. And so looking at that, being able now to say no to things, knowing that, though, having the faith that that just means you're creating space for something even bigger and better and bolder and more magical and more beautiful than you can ever believe. But if you say yes to this thing that's not aligned, you're not going to have the space for it. So you're going to miss out on that next thing. And just reminding yourself of that. I love that so much. Tamika, what would you say that, is there anything else that you're doing a little bit differently? And it could be, it doesn't have to be something big. It could be a small thing that you're doing operationally or communication wise.
I would say when we started OG LLC, we knew, this is why it's not like Tamika and Janiyah Consulting Agency. We knew we were creating a firm, a business that we wanted to live outside of us, for lack of a better word. And so that was always our intention. But, when you're starting a business, it is you. And a lot of what OG LLC is, it's us. It's our experience, our expertise, our thought process, the magic that happens between us is very much core and central to the business that we do. But this year, we've been super intentional about operationalizing our own genius. So concretizing what we know, concretizing the magic, challenging ourselves to think about, well, what is that thing that makes people gravitate towards us? And how do you bottle that up and make that a part of the culture of what we're building? Even though, this is crazy that it's happening right now. So I'm going to pause and say this. I used to play school as a child. And I have two sisters, but neither one of them ever played with me. I always had imaginary students because I was I was the teacher, the principal, everything. And so I think about how we're building the business this year. We're doing it based on these prototypes of invisible team members right now, people that we've worked with in the past, people that we know we want on our team in the future, but being intentional about framing that out, like, no, this goes in that bucket. Like, we may be doing this today, but let's package that because it has to go over here. And that's different. And it's so early in our business to be thinking that way, but we see it 10, 20 years down the line, what it needs to be and what it needs to look like. And we're acting as if that is here, like today. And so everything we do, we're like, okay, how do we package this up? Who does this go to? Where does this live? And that's different because last year, while we knew that was, how we wanted to build it, we were still like, okay, well, we got to do everything. Let's just do it and roll with it. And so I think this year, we're OGing ourselves a little bit. So that's fun in addition to doing the work.
I love that. I often think of that too within my company. So is it going to be built out sort of like more of an agency then? And you'll have some key players, but right now you can kind of build the role and the SOPs and the things underneath it. So then when it's probably, you're not going to be ready. You're never going to be ready to push the button. Sometimes, when we're holding on to everything, but when the time is right, then you can just fit them into that key spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's the ethos more than even the SOP. Like, the process is the process. Like, we've documented that, but it's like the right personalities, the right personas. Like, how do we capture, that vibe of Visionaries, energy of excellence for our team, and make sure that shows up in the people that we bring in, because that's going to be really important just for the way we do business, it's how we filter clients, it's how we filter partners, how we filter vendors, all those things. So yeah.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit more, because I think this is a part that many people miss. Talk to me a little bit more about the ethos. Like, what do you mean by that?
Just, some people call it, corporate culture, your values, the things that you stand on. Like, we're super big on integrity, and we're super big on authenticity, and we're super big on, she's a banker, I'm a lawyer. Like, of course, doing things by the book and by the law and by, intention. And so, we've had experiences where clients will say, okay, I want to do X because I'm trying to do Y, but really they're trying to do Z. And we can see, we see that all through the process, and we're like, nope, this is not going to be a good fit. This is not going to work. And at certain times we've kind of gone down the path a little bit, but then ultimately that initial gut check is accurate. This is off. This doesn't work. And so helping people to have that same kind of filter and litmus test is important. And I think, you might, as you're building your team, you say, oh, I might need an administrative assistant, or I need a social media manager, or I need, you're trying to fill these functional spots. And a person can be a great designer, but if they don't design with the heart and mind and intention of your business, it's never going to look right. Something's always going to be off. Like, the lines are going to be too hard. It's not, or it's going to be too soft or whatever. And I think building that ethos is what you invite people into, and it becomes kind of like your firefly thing. It's what draws people in. But if you're not clear on that, everybody looks like a resource, everybody looks like a great opportunity, everybody looks like somebody you should take a chance on. And when you're building a business, or even if you're in a large corporate space, taking those kind of risks cost money. They cost you time, they cost you energy, effort, your mental capacity and space. And so you just want to be spot on about what your filters are and kind of what you stand on, because it quickens decision making, it quickens a lot of productivity and the impact on your business over time.
I couldn't agree more. I remember, and for those listening, how we're actually all connected. Janai and I used to work together, which shows the importance of showing up as a good person, being authentic, being in integrity, and then staying connected. So Janai and I just were like, hey, what are you up to? Let's connect. Let's talk about it. And then we realized, oh my gosh, we have so much in common. While we're doing different things, our vision, our values, like everything is so lined up. And we just said, well, we'll need to collaborate or do something soon. I don't know what it is, but what are we going to do? And then she introduced me to you, Tamika. And I'm just so excited for both of you to be at the conference this year. And you're going to be talking about a little bit more about legacy. Janaya, do you want to share a little bit more about what people can envision at the conference when they hear from you?
Yeah, so we're wanting to bring kind of the fullness of the experience that we offer when we work together. So of course, we've done lots of trainings, lots of talks, keynotes, all of the above. But we really wanted this to kind of marry a lot of those things all together. So not just lecture, talk, or keynote, but also really activating for people where that moment of pivot is happening, or where those moments of like spark, because they're successful now in their roles. And so if you have that feeling of like, how do I grow this more? What's my next thing? Especially you hit this point in your career, like I've gotten here and there's never like an arrival, but like, what do I want this kind of last part of my professional life to be? And then what do I want it to be when I retire? So a lot of times that sparks this legacy component, or what is the mark that I want to leave as I think about this kind of season of where I am professionally. And so we want it to be part inspirational, part, kind of what Tamika and I think is our sauce of like really igniting those things and hearing and seeing people, but then walk away with hopefully, some people feeling like, okay, I don't feel crazy, or I don't have to also blow everything all up. We think of transferable skills as like, I can type, I can this, but like transferable expertise and transferable things that can ignite your dream. They're not necessarily tasks, or they're not things that like I can write down, I would age myself by saying, 160 words a minute, but, those kind of things. So ideally, that's kind of what we would love to happen in the room. Ideally, sparks will happen for folks as they think about themselves professionally and what's next.
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be so great. And I love that you said it wasn't just going to be an inspiration. It's going to be a workshop. People are going to be able to put in the work for themselves and get those sparks in the room. And it's not just going to be a bunch of talking at them, but working with them and through them. And I can't wait to see both of your magic and your genius and what you're bringing. It's going to be just the best. I'm so looking forward to it, and I'm so grateful that you're going to be there. Why don't we shift a little bit and just share more of our human side? What are you ladies doing differently this year personally? Tamika, do you have something that you're really focused on personally?
I am focused on whatever iteration of Tamika this is supposed to be. I've had children over the last 5 years of my life. So I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So going, I thought I came out of postpartum and I was like, okay, I'm finally going to get myself back. And then, the universe was like, surprise, no, you're going to do this all over again really quickly. And so I had another baby. And so just coming out of postpartum twice and realizing what I want, myself to look like. So there's a health, rejuge. There's a wealth rejuge with our new business. There's a new self-expression. You see Beyonce and all these other things behind me. I'm a former entertainment attorney. So there's a part of me that's like, okay, I'm going to put that all the way away now. And what does it look like in the next phase of my life. So the different is me, just really trying to unpack where I am and where I want to be next, outside of just being, a CEO and being a mom and being a partner. But who is she? What is she gonna do? Like, as me. So that's
So
where
fun. I love that. Just uncovering more and more about yourself. And it's the leaders who are the most self-aware and willing to continually grow and do that work that are the most impactful. So kudos to you. Is there one specific thing that you're doing, maybe a ritual or a routine or something that you're trying that you could share?
I started journaling again. I realized once I had my first son, that quiet time that I used to have was either spent breastfeeding or asleep. And so I used to be an avid reader, journal. Like, I would read a book and then take tons of notes. And I hadn't done that in years. And so I bought a journal about a month ago and just started, chronicling my day, but then also chronicling my thoughts, chronicling what I'm feeling. And so that's just helped me to just start seeing some of the themes. And I'll go back and reread it in like a month and see what I'm picking up. But again, that introspection and giving myself time to kind of capture the thoughts, because we move so fast and it's like, this is not an Instagram post. This is not, a tweet or a thread that I'm putting out. Like, I really need to get it out of my head and kind of into a place that I can process. And so journaling has popped back up for me.
Yeah, I'm a big journaler too. I journal and write every single day. It's almost like being with your future self plus therapy plus just getting those divine downloads that you write when you free write. I don't know if you free write and
Yep.
like you read it back and you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? This
Right.
is so awesome. But it's going back to what you said and what we said at the top of the podcast is creating the space. A lot of people aren't creating the space and time for that.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing that. Janaya, how about you? What are you doing differently this year on a personal note?
A little bit of the same of what Tamika's doing. So I'm just different though. I have grown children. So my baby girl turned 20 just this past week. So I am empty nesting. I'm, kind of figuring out what life looks like that as I enter into this, approach this 50 age and, all of what that changes and brings with health and, think I've rode out whatever last muscle I had from my 20s. So, what does now it look like that, you need to incorporate some different things into your wellness journey. And so just a different phase of life, I think, altogether for me, but then really being deliberate and intentional that I don't, as mothers, we're caretakers, as partners, we're caretakers, as it's just this caretaking space that we fill up. Leading teams, all of that. But for me, it's the real intentionality of that I love Janaya at some point during each day. And that could be walking, that could be journaling, that could be reading, but that I leave whatever those moments are feeling like it was for me, not just time, because sometimes it isn't just I sit down or it's not just, but it's doing something that is intentionally loving back on me. And so it could be art. It could be, I love to walk in nature. It could be something, but you walk away from that moment, long or short, that it's like, for me, myself, person. So that's probably my different intentionality. And it takes a little bit to stick to because you get back into like routine and fight and flight, and then it's everybody else and do everything. And then you can be easily depleting yourself day over day, every day, every day, and then look at the end of the week. But like really intentionally each day showing up for some love moment to myself.
So beautiful. Is there a tip that you have on, like, have you noticed when you got into that fight day after day after day, not doing it? And how are you staying so intentional each and every day?
So I have a note on my mirror that's in my room that I wrote with a whiteboard that is love you, love me, like love to you, love for me, and it's my reminder each day. And if by the end of the day I haven't done anything, then I may journal or I may just intentionally take deep breaths or just something that like I walk away. It might be the thing that goes in the shower that's the steamer, and I have shower affirmations. And so like, it's just, if I haven't done it, then it is that short, small moment that And then the mirror is the reminder. So I try to do it every day. And if I get away, then I just try to gently just do it that day. I don't know that I necessarily try to focus on I missed 3 days or I beat myself up. Just, okay, girl, go ahead and just sit down and have a, moment to yourself, or go for a walk, or something, and just do it at that moment. So
I love that you said that. You use the word gently. And I think that that's so important for people to hear, that to just gently bring ourselves back. Like, it's okay. We're all on this journey, and we all make choices. And if we make a choice and it wasn't necessarily the one that we wanted to make, then we have an opportunity the next choice to make it. And everything's just all information. Is if we take it as such, then we can be a continual learner and have a growth mindset. And so I love that you said that. You're not just down on yourself for when you didn't do it, but you're like just gently bringing yourself back. But also what you said was you create an environment that's conducive of meeting this intention. And so how often are we not curating an environment that's conducive for how we want to live, how we want to be, or the intentions that we have? So I think that that's so important as well. Thank you for sharing that. Tamika, is there anything else that you'd want to share about the work that you do, what you're going to be talking about at the conference, or just any final words on if someone wanted to possibly look at taking this journey with you too? What's their first step? What should they be asking themselves?
Are they ready to attack that, whatever that tug is that they feel? And so, we do an initial consultation or call. Just schedule time with us. You can visit our website, www.weareogllc.com, and schedule time on our calendar. We love to meet people. That is one thing about us. And one day, I think when we have an operations manager, they're like, you guys can't meet with everybody. But we do truly enjoy meeting people where they are. And so I would say evaluate the tug that you're feeling. If you're coming to the conference, start thinking about it beforehand. Like, how do I feel? What's working right now? What's not working? What feels, uneasy, or feels open, or feels, tight, from where I am right now. And I would say just be open to new experiences. Be open to it looking different than what you initially think. Janai and I say all the time, we were not friends before we became business partners. We learned each other through work. And so, the one thing I'll say personally is I'm super thankful to be taking this walk with her. I've always been an independent learner, independent worker. Like, don't give me a group project unless I could be the leader, because I don't trust anybody with my stuff. I trust Janai with my heart, my kids, everything. Like, you can have it. I trust her to make a decision for it. And so just be open to it looking differently. If there's somebody that you admire, somebody that you're close to, that you're always vibing with, have the conversation with them. You never know where it's going to lead you. And just be open is what I'd say to people, and start really processing the tug or the gaps that you feel exist in your space, even when everything feels or looks okay.
Even when everything feels or looks okay. Because do we want everything to feel or look okay? Or do we want it to, yeah, right? Do we want to have the vibe of Visionaries and the energy of excellence? That's what we want. I want that. I want to go towards that tug. Thank you for sharing that. Any final words from you, Janaya, on anything that you want to share?
I want to say thank you for having us. I want to say thank you for including us. I echo what you said earlier about, like, we remember each other from past lives. And I do believe, magnets are part of our life. I call them magnets, and you stay connected, and you kind of re-find each other. And so I'm very excited to not only participate in the conference, but just also in the work that you do, because it really is a vibe of visionary energy excellence. And I mean, we can say that in almost a descriptor of people that we meet and work that they do and how we align. And it just becomes a definition for us. And so I'm just thrilled to see the room that you pull together, just knowing what I know from you and how you work in your intentional space as well. So we're thankful to be included and excited for the opportunity, excited to engage and just be in this room that I think is going to be just lots of sparks and energy and a lot of fun. So I'm excited.
I'm so excited to thank you for that. And if you haven't grabbed your ticket for the Amplify Your Life World Conference, the link is in the show notes, or you can text Amplify to 503-386-2981 to grab up your ticket. But I am so excited for everybody to meet you in this room, for everybody to meet you on this podcast right now and be introduced to you, because the spark that I have just from this conversation is just alive. I can just feel a sense of aliveness just from talking to you right now. So I thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I can't wait to see you in person in September.